Something like that. Okay. Shit. There it is. Get it. My baby, get off. Shit. Suppose I could, but I don't want. Apparently I'm doing it anyway. I get some music on or something. Nice. Look, how much more fabric I have now. That wasn't there before. So tiny.
Figuring out money as a young adult can be a lot. My parents helped me open my first bank account. It gave me independence and set me up early. And I love Scotiabank's new preferred package for students and youth. A no-fee checking account made to help students start strong and live fully. Say yes to their richest years.
Kindergarten's back, and it's weirder than heck with teachers and pills and a lab on deck. Kids getting tested like rats in a maze, and the nugget cults chatting in barbecue haze. It sparks some weird questions, absurd and profound, like, did chicken nuggets break your fall to the ground? And what's with that janitor who's mopping up gore? With whispers and rumors that hinted strange lore. But none of those riddles stuck deep in my brain. The one that's both stupid and slightly insane. In Kindergarten 3, when logic heads south, how many kids fit in an alligator's mouth?
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that knows an apple a day will keep you smoking definitely a real nurse away. Just like we've been kept away from our favourite murderous kindergarten game for far too long. No, not you. I'm talking about the pixelated comedy gold with gratuitous violence that is Kindergarten 3. In fact, it's been so long you could have had your own kid and handed them finish kindergarten while waiting for this sequel. But despite the tardiness, kindergarten is still top of the class. We still play as an unnamed protagonist whose goal is to survive yet another death-filled day at kindergarten, reliving the same day over and over again until we start to piece together the ever-expanding mystery happening underneath these schools. But the magic of kindergarten has never been about the story, it's about the characters. And many of our favourite staff and students are back once again.
I know I should iron it, but I'm not going to.
The genius entrepreneur who, due to a series of accidents, now has robotic legs. Huh, maybe that's where the mimic got them from. Or there's the janitor who has a fondness for stabbing children, most will want to. And of course, who could forget dear Nugget, who now adds eating radioactive goo to his list of obsessions.
Nugget requires more goo.
Well, this baby daddy has the goo.
Please, this is a kindergarten full of monsters and murder. Anyway, with Kindergarten 3 taking place in yet another good-for-nothing kindergarten, we're also treated to a bunch of new colourful characters. There's Miss Lovelet, the theatre teacher who insists her students fully embrace their roles, death and all. There's Emmy with her bloodthirsty vegetable patch, and there's Davy, the son of the missing principal. But it's fine, he doesn't seem all that bothered about it because he's become infatuated with Linda, the humongous alligator just chilling uncaged in front of the kindergarten. But when I was playing through the game on my own, I also found that I was drawn to Linda, just for totally different reasons. Not because she was in the war with the janitor, although that's strange, it's because of this moment right here. Don't worry, the kid's fine. It turns out Linda doubles as a mode of transportation between the schoolyard and the secret lab hidden underneath.
I need to take that down.
Immediately, my theorist trained
A lot of things that I
fit
do.
in there. And then the game literally asks the very same question. It's like they're taunting me personally, begging me to get to the bottom of this ridiculous premise. Well, like Nugget with a basket of delicious chickeny goodness, I too can gobble down dumb math like there's no tomorrow. Literally. So join me, theorists, as we crawl into the belly, or at least the mouth, of the beast with nothing but a prayer and a tape measure.
Does this look familiar? Well, you need Gamer Subs. Gamer Subs GG energy drinks have vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and no sugar.
It's always easier when I'm actually thinking about it instead of actually doing
Get
it.
a discount, visit gamersubs.gg/game theory and use code game theory to save 10% on Gamer Subs today. And that is actually a pretty good place to start. Where is lovely Linda actually storing these kids? In the game, it appears as though we just jump into her mouth, it closes, and that's it. Initially, I wondered if maybe they could be making their way into her stomach, just for the sake of room, only to essentially get thrown back up on the other side. But when I looked into it, there were a few interesting factoids that changed my mind. One, alligators have this flap at the back of their mouths, known as the palatal valve, that sort of acts like a fleshy barrier. It's there to make sure that gators don't accidentally swallow water while they're hunting underwater. And given we are using Linda to traverse underwater, I doubt she's going to be opening hers to let any children through.
Yeah,
Even
leave
if
a few
she
inches,
did,
that's
they run
fine.
into reason number two, which is that
not
getting
off the
stuck
side,
inside
that
a gator's stomach
stresses me
might be
out.
among the worst deaths they could face. And that's saying something given this game. A gator's stomach is super inhospitable. When they're digesting a particularly large morsel of food, like say a child, they actually shuttle blood away from their lungs and towards their stomachs so they can pump it with more carbon dioxide and make their stomachs even more acidic. As a result, some estimates say that gators have stomachs that are as much as 10 times more acidic than any mammal. So yeah, these kids ain't surviving that, which means we're gonna stick to them staying firmly inside Linda's big old mouth. But before we can measure that mouth, we first need to figure out the size of our would-be crocodile hunter. Sorry, alligator. Now, while most of the children in kindergarten appear to be around the same size, that doesn't tell us exactly how big they are. I mean, their school is leaking radioactive goo. For all we know, they could be mutant children. Normally, this is where I would bust out the pixel measurements and look around the school to find something with a standardized set of measurements that we could use. Something like the height of a door or the spacing of bricks, something we know has a fixed measurement. And actually, the school has a bunch of those things available to us. The only problem is, how do I put this? The scaling in the school makes no sense. School doors can vary in size, but the widest standardized door is 6 foot 8 inches tall and 4 foot wide. But if the doors in this game are meant to be that same height, they would be 5.
Your faves for less. Meals now starting at $9.99. Dips for less. Drips for less. Legends for less. Meals now starting at $9.99 with medium fries and a medium fountain drink.
I'm getting tired of giant squid, but I gotta make them while I can make them.
5 foot 3 inches wide. And if you kept their width more standard, it would make the doors only 5 foot 1 inches tall, which is too short for most adults to walk through. But then we have air vents that are usually 2 feet by 1.5 feet, but here they're nearly the size of Miss Applegate's massive upgrade. Heck, if you compare our protagonist to a roll of toilet paper, which at most is going to be about 5 inches tall, he's only like 2 rolls of toilet paper tall. Of course, this shouldn't be too surprising. This is a pixel-based game after all. It's more about aesthetics than it is accurate.
I still haven't found my good scissors. I put them down during the last live stream within arm's reach, and I've never seen them again.
So, since scaling in our game isn't going to do us any good for our little experiment, I had only one choice. I had to face reality. And by that I mean use the dimensions of a normal kindergartner and shove that into the middles of our angry reptile. The CDC tells us that the average height of your typical type is around 45 inches, or just over 8 meters. They also give us the average weight, which is about 44 pounds or 20 kilograms. So those are just the tip of the mathematical nugget iceberg. What we really need to know is how much space they take up inside of an alligator. If only there was a formula to just figure out a child's volume. Oh, DMV, I thought you'd never show up. Since all humans, even children, have roughly the same density, around 1 kilogram
Forgive
We
me.
can use the formula density
That one?
equals mass divided by volume, plug in our values, and boom. We find out that our average kindergartner should have a volume of around 20 liters.
Okay.
So easy, even a kindergartner can do it. Okay, maybe like a super smart kindergartner. Now, this does bring up the slightly obvious point that children are liquids. They're notoriously hard to stuff into small spaces, animatronic suits notwithstanding. But for the simplicity of math, we're going to assume that our child can be contorted in whatever way it's
Cut this down to just this much.
I mean, when Lily describes how they can, she does say it's very uncomfortable. Plus, with how ridiculous this thing gets, it's really not going to matter that much, trust. So, we have the standard size for kindergartner, making our next
These are
question.
the backup ones, which are better than
Surprisingly, despite spending days and days looking, there didn't seem to have been any kind of research or scientific papers out there about the internal volume of an alligator's mouth. I know, I was as shocked as you are, but just before I was about to head out with my ruler and get the results firsthand, I was able to find this. This is an actual 3D model of an American alligator skull that was scanned from a real alligator skull. It was uploaded to Sketchfab by Holiday Lab, and the skull sample originally came from the University of Missouri Vertebrate Collection. So shout out to those guys. My still attached limbs are forever grateful. Now we can import this model into Blender and start the real magic. All we have to do is create a shape inside of Linda's mouth and use that to perfectly tell us how much space is inside those jaws. So once that's done, we can then use Blender's scaling tool to resize our Linda to be the size of a typical female gator, which is 8.2 feet to 2.6 meters long. So can Linda's mouth fit our little 20-liter guy? Heck no! And it's not even close. At this scale, Linda only has an internal mouth volume of 1.6 liters, around 12.5 times too small to safely carry our boy. At first, that volume might sound a bit small. I mean, gators have been known to attack and kill small children before, including those in today's age bracket. But as this video sort of demonstrates, gators tend to funnel their food down their throats as they swallow. They don't hold the entire snack in their relatively small mouth. But don't think that means we're done, loyal fans. If an average alligator would be too small to comfortably fit our protagonist in its chompers, how big would Linda have to be to make our trip possible? Well, back to Blender. But instead of scaling our Linda skull to match the real-world gator, now we're going to take the volume inside of the mouth and scale that up until it's exactly 20 liters, just enough to fit our little friendo uncomfortably inside. Doing that, we get that the length of the head that would be needed to fit our protagonist inside would be around 0.833 meters, or 2.72 feet. But that is just the length of the head. What about the rest of the body? Well, it turns out that American alligators' bodies are approximately 7.3 times the length of their head. That means our 0.833 meter head would correspond to an alligator that is 6.1 meters long. That is over 20 feet.
Those are the two long tentacles.
She'd be bigger than the largest verified gator ever on record by over 4 feet, just over the size of the tallest average kindergartner. But
I need fabric color.
only character that hitches a ride on the Linda Express. Oh, no. Later in the game, we see not one, not two, but 3 children enter Linda's mouth at the same time, meaning Linda has to be even bigger than we initially calculated. If we assume that all 3 children are the same size as our protagonist, 20 liters, that means this new beefier or gatorier Linda would need to be able to fit a whopping 60 liters of children in her mouth hole. That's roughly the size of the gas tank in your car. A gator big enough to hold that in its mouth would need to be an absolutely gargantuan 8.76 meters or 28.7 feet long. That's about half the length of a bowling alley. No thanks, I'll stick to skee ball. But even that still doesn't represent Linda's true size. At the very end of Kindergarten 3, she manages to fit even more inside of her mouth. She wolfs down 4 kids, as well as 2 bunny rabbits and a guppy. The dog and the bird take the scenic route because animals also fit in there. Now, that would be ridiculous. Thankfully, though, this time someone had done some of the hard work for me, as I found this paper on the average volume of rabbits, which gave me the answer of 3.5 liters. And the guppy, well, it's a guppy. In the real world, they basically take up no space. Plus, they're super squishy. So, adding all the 18 liters...
I'm making this complicated. Doesn't have to be.
Linda ate one of the rabbits as payment? Well, that's one thing to worry about. So, 83.5 litres from our 5 passengers that made it, plus the guppy, which is basically too small to count, means that the actual size that Linda would need to be to barely ferry all of these characters down to the secret lair would be just shy of the length of a school bus. 9.8 meters,
You're getting pretty fucking now.
Feet. Turns out she doesn't need to be mutated by radioactive goo to become a Godzilla. She already is one. Although, if we were to take her final size and give pixel measurements a second chance, you would find that this magical goo has turned our sweet little or big Linda into a behemoth with a final length of 17 meters or 57 feet. That is bigger than the length of the Hollywood sign and nearly as long as an entire cricket pitch. How big are these tunnels underneath the kindergartens? And yet, our perspective shows that we are still the same size as 2 rolls of toilet paper. I told you the scale was whack, but hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching. World premiere on Game Theory.
The hidden blade is broken. Or at least it should be.
Ooh, I like this color. I really like this shade of blue.
Listen, just sleep and baby sleeps.
Everyone's got opinions. When it comes to childhood vaccines, rely on the facts. Childhood vaccines have been around for decades and are safely proven to help protect children against 14 preventable diseases. Learn more at canada.ca/childhood vaccines. A message from the Government of Canada.
She can win millions of prizes with the AliExpress $1 challenge.
I actually went on Wish and Temu and AliExpress today, and I didn't buy anything. I have everything I need. I could use a pair of sewing scissors. But, yeah. I looked at some craft stuff, and then I looked at some, like, shirts and stuff, and clothing, and pajamas. That's it. The only problem is, like, whenever I look at clothing and stuff online, everything is Halloween. Because that's the only thing that interests me. So it's like pumpkins and ghosts and skulls, and I don't want to buy anything plain and normal. I know I should have some adult and responsible pieces of clothing, but it's just boring as fuck. I just wish I could dress how I wanted. I lived in the city, maybe. Fortunately, in a small-minded town, so...
Here is everything you need to know about Work From Home. Plus, if you stick around to the end, there may just be something special. Call it a little holiday gift from me. Take it away. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. For a neighbor.
My heartburn.
Could you be mine? Would you be mine? Could you be
Neighbor.
Hello, it's Game Theory, the show that hopes to make this day a special day by just being itself. And you can make my day very special by gently and kindly tapping that subscribe button. You know, that original quote is nothing short of iconic, attributed to one man in particular, Fred Rogers, host of the show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. No single man has done so much for children's entertainment or redneck market sweaters. It's safe to say that every kid who grew up between 1968 and 2001 are at least passingly familiar with his work. An educational show hosted on PBS that encouraged respect, compassion, kindness, integrity, and humility. It was simple, it was heartwarming, and it became one of the longest-running kids shows of all time. Bested only by Sesame Street in 2003. But when you make an impact on kids' lives, inevitably something strange happens when those kids grow up. They begin to explore their nostalgia, but they give it a new twist to transform it into something original. And nowhere else is that more true than here on the internet, where everything gets thrown into the pop culture grinder to be remixed and melted together.
Yep, this one's dull too. Oh, that was a lovely little idea.
Sometimes it's evil, sometimes it's
I think one of these should, but I don't know.
to capture the imagination of the internet. If this hasn't been flooding your content feed lately, I'd be surprised. It has been everywhere. For good reason.
That's too dull. Oh, all these, we can't use shit. Should toss them.
spinning
But I'll just put them back on the shelf.
educational series that suddenly went off the air and disappeared, even if the production company went completely silent. In that way, it's very reminiscent of Hello Puppets, if you happen to remember that one. As we explore the website, we can learn more about the residents of the neighborhood called home. These are typical children's edutainment roster. People like Grumpy Frank, Joyful Julie, Goofy but streetwise Barnaby. But the most important character is me, Wally Darling. A character who's one part Mr. Rogers, one part Sesame Street with just a dash of Bob Ross thrown in. Because the internet do what the internet gonna do. Exploring the website, we learned that episodes of the show would revolve around Wally learning a lesson, going on adventures, and drawing and painting with viewers. That sounds quite idyllic, really. And it is, at least until you look beneath the surface. As you explore the website, you get a sense that not everything is right in this neighborhood. Links don't seem to work as they should, text appears to be overlapping, out of alignment, or hidden entirely, and there's this weird image of Wally just looking mighty sus. That's not sinister at all.
There he is.
Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just a website, it's an ARG, an artfully realized gallery full of drawings, cardboard models, vinyl records, a physical puppet, and of course, puzzles. Lots of puzzles. And they're all hiding a suspicious amount of lore. Something sinister is going on in this neighborhood, and we're about to figure out what it is. But before we dive in, I do want to take a minute to remind everyone that, well, yes, websites with secrets like this are exciting. You have to be kind and respectful while we explore. Well,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Saying that they welcome theorizing, but they also ask that you don't share them on any theory videos for fear of the video influencing their intended narrative. Additionally, as always with any website-based mystery, remember our 5
Alright,
rules that we
I got the
covered in past
line, got the
episodes.
short.
Publish private information, stick to publicly available information, do not trespass, do not contact or harass individuals, and keep the discussion centralized. To help with that, there's going to be a link in the description to a mega thread on the Game Theorist subreddit. But these rules are especially true for this particular series. Rumors have been circulating in the community that Cloud has actually been doxxed. Fortunately, they put out a post confirming that isn't true. That said, let's just keep it that way. Secondly, as I mentioned before, online discussion about this world and its characters has blown up across TikTok and YouTube. Because of how quickly and aggressively this has gained in popularity, Cloud's currently taking a step back from posting and creating right now. There's even a deleted post saying how overwhelmed they feel by the amount of attention the project's received. So, just as a reminder, stay patient, stay polite, and do not
They hurt.
pressure anyone into making
I think I got heartburn happening.
and respectful members of the community. And Cloud, if you're watching, you should be since this is a theory video, but still, if you are, just want to say, take your time. There is absolutely zero pressure for you to make anything anytime soon. Let's be honest, it took me 7 years to finally launch Style Theory. Creating something cool takes time. One creator to another, just keep doing what you're doing, put your own mental
Oh, shit.
Alright, so with
I
all
think
the
that was
stuff on the
there.
page, let's actually look at some of the clues that I mentioned earlier. When you visit the homepage, you'll find Wally sitting on a rock. Below him is a newsletter explaining the latest updates. However, if you look closely, you'll see something that is quite literally out of place. The letter Y and the word your is sitting much higher than the rest of the text. Now, you might think that this is just a website glitch, something that the creator didn't realize was there. If you look through the rest of the site, you'll see the same thing happening over and over again. One misplaced letter on practically every page.
I'm okay. Maybe that's what's in my lungs, making all my lungs lumpy.
An O in the title of the About Us page, an E in the news logo, and a V in the I Love You.
That makes sense, right?
What do you do with all these letters? Well, you go back up to the URL bar and type in clownillustration.com/ then the letters Y.
Yeah, it's not cancer, it's just plastic. Fabric.
These eyes appear to be that of our lead character, Wally. Eventually, the gift stops, showing only an image of his eyes wide open with dilated pupils staring right at us. Which I gotta say is making me all sorts of uncomfortable. But this isn't the only secret that those letters unlock. Notice the title tab of the website here. Try again. Clearly, there are right and wrong combinations of all these letters. By putting in WOXYDE, we get to see a page of the show's script, along with a GIF that shows Wally's eyes looking at us. If you try EOVWXY, you'll see a video of a TV screen with static, but when the 40-second mark hits, suddenly there's a flash of those same eyes staring at us through the screen. So, I mean, we're being watched. And it's at this moment that we notice the designs on the edges of the website. What initially seems like loud, flower power style designs of the 60s are actually a mass of eyes constantly watching us as we scroll through the site's various pages. But this doesn't end with it just watching us. Whatever this thing is,
Time for those.
page we find lots of images that are noticeable.
That one's kind of full. This one's kind of...
This is where we find that
Put that over there, I guess. Well, fuck me. What the hell do you come off? I remember what you come off. It's fine.
with the scene of the characters trying to really delivering mail. However, closely
Distracted!
visible on the right-hand side. Take an even closer look, and you'll
These
notice
are already in
that the
bags.
first letters of each line spell out.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That's ominous.
Do not have enough. Yes, never mind. To the shelf.
To the About Us page, the page for the recreation efforts, we can see a picture of Mike's candy cans. But in the corner of the page is a set of books, all with writing on the spine. The first couple are up.
This is what it's supposed to be used for. Kind of full though.
Books that really get into uncomfortable territory. They read, "And your neighbor, you know about me? You do."
We'll put that fine. Can't use that.
We know they're
Get back to sewing, you dumbass.
But who are they? They assume that we know them, so we should probably figure out who's on the other side of those book spines. It feels very much like someone from the show in some way, calling us neighbor. It's very Mr. Rogers-esque, like a TV host addressing the people that are watching, breaking the fourth wall.
That is
Could it be that the reason that we saw
the body,
Wally in those
the long arms,
pictures
short
is
arms,
because he's the one trying to
the butt.
communicate with us. Well, the only way
the eyeballs are already done.
searching, but I want to go all the way to the end.
Do I have any more I can
Probably
cut?
the most lore of this entire project, the guest book. This guest book is for people visiting the site to leave comments, but that's
What
not
is
the
this? I
only
found
way to
this.
explain. Sometimes there are
But
nuances to those comments which aren't
already
made by
cut,
regular
so I
users
don't
like
know
me. Someone or
what it was
something
used for.
has drawn them on the page. Most likely the one
It's cut, and I can't get a full giant squid out of it.
Sure, having even
So
more
I don't
pictures
know.
of eyeballs drawn next to comments is
I don't know what it was cut for. I don't know what I used it for.
Image in a new tab, you'll find almost all of them have interesting file names. For example, on page 3, there's a spiral
I don't think I can
drawing
get
with
a
yellow
full
crayon next to a comment
giant
that
squid
asks,
out of it.
"Would you like eye contact?" And if you open that
It
image
doesn't
up in
look
a new
bad.
tab, you'll find the response, so you will know
The
I
eyes
am
are on this
looking at
side.
you. I am talking to you. So whoever's
Ooh, I might be able to get a giant squid out of this. Nice.
So
Alright.
who is it?
Put that in the pile for later.
For instance, there's one comment that says, "Well, which the website tries to imply, I am
I could just make a giant stingray later.
their mystery host, so we know that Wally and this character aren't one and the same, except maybe they are." In another comment that says, "I hope everyone knows that he's my favorite," the title tab says, "I'm your favorite, that makes me happy." So, are you or are you not Wally? Well, it seems like the answer may actually be yes. When you go to the last page of the guest book, you're presented with a lot of blank entries, which, I don't know about you, but feels awfully suspicious. So, if you hit select all, and one of those empty guest book entries, it suddenly reveals that there's a text here from Wally that reads, "You're looking for me. Silly, silly." But right next to it is another picture, also printed Wally, except this time it's like somebody wrote his name and then put it through a SpongeBob meme filter. It says, "You won't write back." The fact that both of these are identifying as Wally, just with one of them corrupted, seems to indicate that there are either two entities inside of the code, or there are two Wallys running around. The real Wally and something else.
I have a little bit of blue, so I'll use you, and then we'll probably switch to black.
Could show one of these things is not like the other, or should I say, two of these things are actually exactly like the other. Notice the writing is the
Put
same
together.
handwriting for Wally. Same with crayon, same style of writing, especially when you compare the M and the W. Wally and home are connected in some way. They seem to be one and the same. This is also heavily supported by another one of the guest book pages. On page 5, one comment says that Wally is such a doll. And the website's response is a picture of a pie titled, "No, a puppet to double meaning." Not only is Wally the character a physical puppet, but he seems to be inspired by something else behind the scenes on the string. Information in very unique places. On the each one gets themselves an illustration and then mysteries and just clicking on everything in sight in the hopes of finding clues you'll actually view.
Get close enough.
If you happen to click on the word "you" and the word "yours" on the page, you'll be taken to a brand new screen. One that has a description card like all the other characters, and this time it has you. Yes.
Gonna make a mermaid. These are gonna be like.
You got yourself a
So the clam, she's gonna have some flowers. That's the thought process anyway.
With the constant calling of people in the guest book neighbor, it's kind of giving me vibes.
Okay,
of
so.
everyone refers to each other as brothers and sisters, or in this case, neighbors, rather than by their actual names. Speaking of weird details in the character descriptions, all of these characters, minus Wally, don't originate from home. They all have friends and family. We inside of home.
me that he's
I went to the store today and I know what I was supposed to buy and I didn't fucking buy it. Now I'm in a rage. No! Fuck, I should have got some more compressed air.
As I looked through more and more of the images.
Oh, I might have some upstairs. What are you working on now? Julie P. I am making another giant squid.
Has a male pin on his hat because he's a mailman.
Yep.
Has a star and moon pin on her because
Another giant
she's
squid.
literally a star.
Let's make some bird.
I expected to see him with some kind of
Unfortunately, I'll get into these moods where I'll just make one thing a lot, and then I'll never make it again.
that you get into the religious a vibe that starts to get even stronger if you go back to the earliest days of the website. Now, this website was first launched back in February of 2022. Back then, it looked very different than it does today. At one point, there was this image of Wally staring directly at us with a simple phrase above his head: hold my gaze and follow me. I don't know about you, but if Mr. Rogers started speaking to me that way, I'd be catching the first trolley on out of here. No, this sort of phrasing is very similar to the style of speech used by religious figures, especially Jesus from various passages throughout the Bible where he would ask his disciples to follow him. It's also a tactic used by cult leaders as they indoctrinate new members. But bringing it all back around to the current website, if you visit that neighborhood page that I mentioned earlier and take an even closer look, you might notice that Wally's house has this pulsating black goo coming out from underneath it. And with internet projects like these, we all know that black goo is never a good sign. To my surprise, that space below the house was clickable. So I clicked it and I opened it. Black
Damn it. Good luck.
Toward the eye of his house with one hand raised. I mean, this is the most creepy thing that we've come across so far. And it gets even creepier because
That pisses me off.
Not just any practice either. More often than not, the phrase is associated with one particular image of the deity Baphomet. Baphomet was worshipped as a deity by groups like the Knights Templar and represented balance, with two-finger salutes pointing up and down, hence as above, so below. It's a symbol of mercy and justice, as well as explaining the idea that if things are a certain way in the heavens, the exact same pose. Now, it's at this point that I should probably mention that by cloud. Quote, prior to the beginning of January such as old pieces as anything to consider. Welcome Home has been completely overhauled. I've also seen comments saying that this that's actually what they're saying. So back to As Above, So Below. Baphomet wasn't only depicted in that one pose, he was also regularly depicted with children surrounding him, because the idea was that children wouldn't immediately see him as the devil. They should be allowed to make their own decisions rather than being told how to interpret something. Specifically, the worshippers of Baphomet were against the indoctrination of children. Interesting that Wally is now fulfilling the role as some sort of puppet deity. In short, all of this seems to imply also balance each other out. Wally is the friendly on this page we see some of the artwork that's being received from an anonymous source, but the original artwork always arrives in a damaged state, covered in red, yellow, and blue paint, the colors that Wally uses. Again, showing us Wally is
There it was. There. I shouldn't have knew. I knew. I still did it anyway.
What does he mean, get it out? Are you talking about home? We see the same type of language on the news page. We're told that a museum curator is wanting to put on an exhibition for all these findings. Together, we will get it out. We will get everything out. You will see as we do, neighbor. Now that right there, that sounds like indoctrination at its finest.
Night. Thanks for stopping by. Sorry I wasn't much for conversation tonight.
worship. Wally isn't the deity here. Homer. Wally is just the good and faithful servant. They are all welcoming home. If you remember the letters that we used to find some in the world of welcome home, children would turn off their TVs and the crew would retire for the night. The show because while the songs can't be labeled as singing MP3 in the files, the web page is labeled using onomatopoeias. So these banging sounds are home responding to Wally's song, slowly awakening, ready for revival. We don't exactly know what happened in 1974, what caused the show to shut down and the production company to fall silent, but I've seen my fair share of indie horror to know that when you got sentient mascots and demonic entities, it's not going to be a good one. Maybe the production company fell silent because many of their workers were killed. Maybe a ton of children died. Possessed them through the TV to serve whatever home's motivation. This exhibition is people together. The one thing I more is revealed in ways. I suppose you can consider us. It seems like something a lot more sinister. Read as follows, quote, together we will get it out. We will get it out. Part of Wally's cult. So imagine my surprise when on the updated website I saw that there was a brand new page dedicated to that very exhibition and nothing really happened. Here I was, expecting images of destroyed displays, news articles of a disaster, maybe a message written on a wall in not too much for a guy to ask, right? But instead, all I saw were vinyl records. With the mysterious museum curator questions to answer here in the world of welcome.
Your thing. $9.99. Gifts for less, drinks for less.
Which means that it's time to do what you always do when you're stuck in need answers and it page with a single image of a notebook. On this notebook, we see someone has been trying over again to find a password, but a password for what? Well, to find out, all you have to do is click the image, revealing a red safe with keys that represent the various characters from the series. Clicking again takes us to a blank guest area that according to the notebook, the code is going to be 5 letters. Go figure. We also have 5 questions, with each answer. His neighbor has to be the residential jokester Barnaby. Who shines brighter than any star? Sally Scarlet. Who's the biggest chicken? Or knockoff Big Bird, Happy? Which neighbor speaks to flowers? According to the character profiles, it's Julie. And who's your each answer? BSPJW. Awarded with the staff award. Your theorist brain. The page isn't like a new group of photos that don't seem nearly do or do not do signs. In all seriousness, look at the note that's sitting on top of the pile of latex gloves. Put on gloves before handling any art. Call me if we run out. Those signs there aren't for visitors, they're for the staff. And it's important. I mean, you're not just writing 4 exclamation points. In a later image, we find an email warning staff about a strange substance that's growing on the artwork. Delivered, please place it back in the box. Anyone in your team experiences actually see
Well, why doesn't do it that way?
the website's original FAQ page. Quote, when I unwrap the first letter,
There we go. Much faster.
with a rotary phone in front of him, ringing away. It looked just like the little toy phone we were restoring for the exhibit. It kept ringing. Wally stared at me like he was waiting for me to pick up the phone, just staring, unblinking, the phone ringing and ringing. I couldn't move. I couldn't figure out how to move and pick up the phone. He kept waiting. I couldn't pick up the phone. I keep getting phone calls now, or at least I was. I keep hearing it ringing all messages. The writer is being driven mad by the same substance during the call of Wally and his cult. You should be hearing this. Just click the button to answer the phone. Please make the ringing stop. Now let's figure out what's going on with this note. The note goes on to talk about how they tore up the workstation. Home restoration. Speaking about the organization in the third person, and they seem to be the one responsible. And museum curator who believes in our to the staff page in the first place. The QA is the one handling the artifacts.
The long ones.
Getting everything set up, and in so doing, they've fallen victim to Wally's trap. What they've also done is tell us where we need to look next to keep our quest going. The question and answer keeps
Just saying
referring
that
to a
way, so I guess we're
telephone
doing this.
one that they can hear, but they dismissed the toy phone in the exhibit. Quote, all that was there were the toys for the exhibit and but I'm never quite so quick to dismiss any evidence that feels so overtly obvious. The telephone is prominently displayed at the exhibit. And given there's now a merchandise page on the website, it felt like the best place to go next. The merchandise page is holiday cereals and coloring books. So the biggest and most important thing they present to us right at the top of the page is the rotary phone. In fact, you can actually interact with this toy on the website. Just as you'd expect. Except something isn't quite adding up. Despite working condition, there seem to be some discrepancies between what we see and what the packaging tells us we should be seeing. 10 buttons, 2 of which seem to be missing, and with 1 that's actively glitching. The remaining 7 only have 1 response, and they don't which means that whatever phone they have, it is not. The website says his button has a glitch and has been taken offline. But as with that way, you can definitely hear Wally's dialogue, but while all the others are responding awkwardly to a prank phone call. It isn't an innocent pre-recorded conversation for a toy phone. This is a prank call. A show to us about us.
Until you hear me again, keep your smile.
He's planning something big, and he needs his followers to keep up appearances is until the time is right. This toy allows Wally to speak to his new followers directly, a shepherd to his flock, informing them of the work that's still to come. And while what he has in store is still unknown, he's still finding ways of keeping us busy. Before this update, one of the ways Wally communicated to us was through drawings in a guest book by messages. This time he's doing it across the entire world. Clicking on each of these newly formed drawings directly from Wally. Find all the audio files, you can actually start to see a pattern. The pages, the if you try to rearrange them, you can form the sentence, I will help you. Which is super cool on its own, but it doesn't even stop me. Feels like someone who's already converted, someone who's waiting to hear from him again, who desires to be a part of home. So who's he talking to? Well, it matches quite nicely with the note left behind by the question answer on the staff-only page.
Wally stared at me like he was waiting for me to pick up the phone.
What are you waiting for? To hear me again?
I couldn't move. I couldn't figure it out.
You're so still. What are you doing?
And suddenly it becomes clear why he's desperate for the question answer's attention. Wally might be able to draw over the website, but to spread to people, to become more powerful, Wally needs to be able to.
Draw mine many times. I know it is thanks to you, neighbor, that I can see.
The welcome home.
Why does it suddenly sound quiet? Where's my bottom thread?
But underneath that signatures. So many of them are trying to communicate. What are you telling me for? Do you think I can answer? What are you trying to do to me? I'm closing that guest book. It's the question answer. These eyes everywhere across the site will allow Wally to see into the real world and will help as we see all over the behind-the-scenes photos on the staff-only page. One of the notes tells us about using a black light on all drawings of eyes, spirals, telephones, phrases like the phone is ringing, all things that we've fairly well covered at this point. But how can we be sure it's requesting the 5-letter password that we found earlier? The email response was sent to is from part of the WH.
Are you sewing for a job or for fun? Kind of both. I have a little smally business that I make a lot of crafts, and I sell them at like markets and conventions and stuff like that. So, you know, trying to substitute that in some income so you can pay bills.
WHRP can have more conversations.
I don't know if I would like to do this. I would love to make a living off this, but I don't physically know if I can do it. It doesn't look it, but it's really hard on my back.
I mentioned that there were 2 signatures.
I'm making a giant squid right now.
That felt a bit more chaotic. You won't write back.
This one should be about 8 foot long. I would like to make a life-size giant squid plush, but then, like, where would you put it?
I'm so sorry. Wally's apologizing? But isn't this exactly what he wants? Unless there are 2 versions of Wally. Only by the text, I can't see you. Do you see? The audio clips we found this time, he says,
kind of one of the most boring live streams on YouTube, I think. I think there might be one literally watching paint dry, so.
Throughout the black lineages, but the boxes really helped, allowing us to. Cookbooks sort of make.
Secret. It has Kashi crunchy bars and chewy bars are
It's like 20 degrees upstairs. It's so hot.
Students, bank with RBC and get AirPods. Hey, I only need one set.
You don't know this. Temo is having a limited time event now. 151 pieces. That's free.
Free? Is that true?
All sizes, sockets, screwdriver bits, double box wrenches. The ratchet wrenches are robust with 72 teeth for precise work. Perfect for any repair job. 151 pieces. Everything you need for any repair.
Whoa! Tell me how to get it.
It's simple. Just click on the video and you can get it. 151 pieces set.
Definitely, this is boring to watch, but I think it depends on like what the purpose of the live stream is. Like, for me personally, I don't really do anything if I don't feel like I'm being watched. Does that make sense? So, like, if I wasn't live streaming this, I would like be upstairs on the couch, TikTok, for like the rest of the night, because that's just the way I am. So if I'm live streaming, then I feel like I have to look productive at least. Does that make sense? And I know some people like also have the same problem. So I always live stream if I can think of it. So if they're also kind of in the same rut, then maybe they need to get dishes or laundry or just cleaning the house. Then they can keep me playing in the background, kind of as like background noise, so they feel like there's somebody else in the room. So they can get that extra little things they need to get done. Does that make sense? I'm background noise. I'm productive background noise. I'm not interesting enough to watch or really listen to, but I'm there for bullying support, I guess. Have you done the dishes yet?
Appear on nearly every page, and at first I thought it was just a little extra design.
Don't forget to fold the laundry.
But then I noticed this part of the most real this your neighbor. What is a beautiful home without a pest or two? We'll do our best to keep things neat, tidy, and organized. I mean, they might as well have just said.
I wish I had my good scissors, but I put them down. I haven't seen them since.
Something completely new to the series. A video that opens another side of the story that Wally, Home, and the Restoration Project do not want people to hear. So let's take a look for ourselves, shall we? We don't get a lot of visuals. They appear to be our neighborhood.
Then I'm also hoping one day to have enough hours to get monetization, so I can have a little bit more like passive income. I was monetized before, and I was getting money before, but then, of course, everything YouTube has to ruin it. And like I was monetized for like maybe 3 months. Yeah, repainted my craft room, and like because I only got $100 or something. So once I got the monetization, then I basically spent $100 updating my craft room, and then 3 months later, YouTube changed their terms of service, and I was no longer monetized because I didn't have enough time. So I'm also subconsciously kind of just picking away at that. I'm almost halfway there. I need 4,000, so I'm almost up to 2,000 right now. But
cult leader, then this makes a lot of sense. As the shepherd for his flock, he needs to make sure that everyone's under control. No one's stepping out of line. By the looks of it, something rotten seems to be happening under the surface of this idyllic kids' TV series. In one of the hidden videos, Sally Starlet makes a snide comment to Poppy about someone using gelatin molds while they're baking.
There's no one else in the neighborhood I would trust with this.
And we learned that
Like is.
station in a different video.
I suppose gelatin can't.
I think I did about 4 hours less yesterday. And I did a big giant squid, a couple little giants, or two big giant squid, a big stingray, and a couple little ones. Almost. I really need to get ready for the oddities market in September. I can put a week off for that. Get these guys done. That and I got a new hot glue gun and I hate it. So, there's that too.
Who seems to clash with almost everyone he speaks to. While Frank is teaching Wally about flowers, Barnaby comes in to create a big disruption.
Hey, not a daisy goes by where you don't get impatient, but hey, I'm just following you.
Just get out of here. Go find an audience for your silly gags somewhere else.
Barnaby also has his own because he wants to
Put it in your mailbox, it's policy!
and Barnaby just straight up bullies Julie after she tries to tell a joke.
To the number 3, say to the number 2, after beating him in a game of checkers.
Oh no, here it comes.
I won!
That was just doggone terrible.
But then there's the final video. It is wildly different from everything else we've seen.
Over there.
Unlike the other bugs that appear on the normal page of the website, this bug is found on a hidden page, the WOXYVE page from the Welcome Home pre-update. In case you don't remember, this was one in a series of hidden pages that you could discover by finding misplaced letters in the text pulled across the website. This particular Welcome Home TV show, and now there's been a bug
Okay, where is that last square?
hiding under the
Right there.
pages. Click it, and we find a video of Barnaby talking, just like all the other videos. But this time he's not talking to another character. Instead, he's talking to Home, telling him all the things that he did that day. In his talk, Barnaby calls back to all the other clips, like annoying Frank, bullying Julie, chasing down Eddie.
Yeah, he's a real sourpuss. No wonder Julie can't tell a good joke. He's a sexy
Just like in all the other videos, Barnaby calls over to Wally. This time, he doesn't want to get in.
Come on, get down. Hello? Buddy? Now? Hey.
Oh, I still have some. Ah, there's the red ones. Nice.
Did you hear that? Just before the video starts.
I would listen to music, but there's not a lot of options for
From Home. It's Home.
background music you can have that isn't,
We actually get a translation to tell us
you know,
sounds of banging can be
makes it YouTube upset enough to shut your live stream down while you're working.
help along to
Or
understand.
pause it or blank it or something.
Judgmental lines are focused around
Used to be able to listen to most of the Arcane soundtrack, but as more time goes by, they start tightening up on more and more songs.
There's no trans-
So, like, you used to be able to listen to Fantastic and a couple other ones. And now if they come up while I'm sewing or painting, they will, like, freeze my live stream until the song stops for 5 minutes. And it's like, well, you never had a problem the last 6 months, so why is it a problem today?
But there was still something that helped.
And free YouTube music isn't exactly my favorite. There's a couple of songs that are alright, but you know what it's like. There's a reason it's free.
There's someone else uploading these videos to the site. There's someone else working from the inside to take Wally. Consider this. Has been speaking to us through this website so far. Wally draws on the website to get our attention, but these videos are being revealed by literal bugs crawling across the site. So if Wally draws because he's the answer there is a resident. The character's description reads as follows, quote, the resident bookworm with an expertise on butterflies. A description that belongs to none other than Frank Frankly. This guy loves butterflies. He even wears a butterfly-shaped limited to just calls on him for help when he's
I'm afraid I only really thoughts, Mr. Mayor.
the most damaging there's soft and explaining the legs of the bug right with colorful insect that looks exactly like the insects that we've been clicking on throughout the video. If there's an insect, Frank is involved, which means that these videos are coming from him. It is Frank trying to talk to us. And it's clear that he knows the truth about what's going on when they take a closer look at the videos taking place in patch, as seen from the neighborhood page. He acknowledges it in one of the clips. Frank here is painting us a picture. He's telling us that Frank's situation cult isn't all it's cracked up to be. In fact, basically everyone around him. The neighborhood, Barnaby, Howdy, and home are not what they seem. These colorful things. If there are any professional gardeners out there that want to tell me exactly what they are and what their name is, I'd appreciate it because I wasn't able to find it. But to me, they seem very human. Upside down. There are Huffy, Barnaby, Julie, Frank, Howdy, Eddie, Sally, Wally, and home. 9. These are our neighbors. But then, who's this one with the My mind immediately went to the phrase burying your head in the sand. If this is Frank's garden, it's likely that this has been put together by Frank. So maybe Frank knows more sense for this one to be Wally, denying that there's anything wrong in the neighborhood to begin with. Or maybe it is. He's now trying to tell us without now because he's worried what the neighbors will do and if he gets caught. Sadly, though, it might be too late. On the staff-only page, there's a framed photo. Quote, this art was not a shipment. Please stop using the word critter to prank me. But underneath the actual photo, written in invisible ink, are the words, who are you? With an eye and a spiral. Last episode, we discussed how the eye represents Wally and the spiral represents the invisible ink is quite dark, I felt like I recognized it from somewhere. Then it hit me. The QA says that it's not part of the shipment or original assets, and there's one place where Welcome Home assets exist that aren't being considered canon by the fan base. Clown's portfolio page. Sure enough, when I took a look, there was a high-res version of this exact image, and it shows our new helper, Frank Franklin. The image is a weird one. He's surrounded by his own body parts, arms, hands, eyes, and in the center of the photo, we see Frank holding a mysterious red square. But these hands aren't like his usual ones. The number of fingers actually match up. Yep, it's like the good old days of FNAF, my friends were counting fingers and toes for an anyway, lift the arm. 3 fingers and a thumb. But this image shows him with 4 regular fingers. The thumb he's holding. These are human hands. It's odd that Wally in the photo it's clearly Frank's face. Wally knows who this is. He's one of the neighbors. But paired with the image of Frank having human hands, this question sounds slightly different. It's not who are you, it's who are you really? Information on one out. Pages tell us how each Frank's description reads, quote, Frank does not have any known information regarding his origins prior to moving into home when compared to the others. How he got into the neighborhood is much of a mystery to the WHRP as it is to us. He's hiding his identity to take things down from the inside. In the photo, Frank has all these extra body parts around him. I suspect that all these spare parts are things he uses to disguise himself in order to break Wally and Holmes' little cult open from the inside. When talking to Wally about the flowers and Barnaby interrupts, Frank puts emphasis on a very specific word.
Don't actually have the ability to have to go and store those spaces. Well, sometimes flowers should be left for the other bands. I'm not telling you that these flowers are liars.
Frank isn't trying to tell Barnaby about these lying flowers. He's trying to tell someone else. It could be Wally. We know he's the perspective that we're seeing here. Maybe he's trying to reason with his good side. Or maybe this is his way of breaking the fourth wall, talking directly to us. When Frank is saying these flowers aren't as they seem, we're being shown the people standing together and the one representing Frank having his head buried in the sand. And what color is Frank's representation? Blue. He's telling us that he isn't what he appears to be. He's not a puppet from this neighborhood. He's a spy on the inside. This same photo of Frank with the human hands on Clown's Tumblr account has the hashtag scopophobia. Scopophobia is an extreme or irrational fear of being looked at or seen. Frank is afraid that he's going to be seen for what he truly is, but wants us to know the truth about this neighborhood, so he buries his head in the sand and hides messages to his trusty bums. I have no doubt that in future updates we'll learn more about Frank and how exactly he became part of the neighborhood. I just hope that he's able to stay under the radar for long enough to tell us the truth. There's someone else from the neighborhood that's been using the bugs on the website to expose.
Oh, I just noticed the bugs. That's so cute.
Frank Franklin. But now, after all this time, the internet darling, Wally darling, is back. We've got a shiny new website in celebration of home warming, which is Welcome Home's version of Christmas in March. So, as you can tell, which means there's likely going to be a bunch of brand new lore waiting for us in the neighborhood. So, you know it's spring, wrap up warm, get a hot cup of cocoa, and join me, neighbor, as we are holiday cheer. Website has been taken down and a new one has been rebuilt in its place in order to get rid of.
When's the next chiropractor appointment? I can figure that out. God, I hope I don't miss it.
Nothing happens, so it seems like this reboot was a success. Other than that, the website seems quite a But if you take a look at the news section, there's a newsletter that tells us all about the new stuff they have over on the merchandise page. So I guess that's where we're going.
This ghetto.
They really work live. This is by far the biggest part of it. Rendition of the song Toyland. There's even children's toys that can take actual throwing knives and an unsettling
Oh, yeah.
full of disturbing
That's the body.
Definitely going to be sending over to Santi later. But there was one new addition that stood out to me above all the rest. Yes, even those deadly weapons. That was the crispy sweet frosted cereal box.
Alright, I'm finding those good scissors.
We see our reliable mailman Eddie Deer holding the
Where is it? It's gotta be within arm's reach. I didn't go upstairs. So it's gotta be here, right?
Every page is
Oh, there's that bag of seashell I've been looking at for 3 minutes.
But I was left with a handful of letters that at first I just couldn't.
You cut?
These
Fuck
letters
no.
are they're part of crap. 3 W's and it's the end. Next, giving us the website www.awayfromfryingeyes.net.
On the floor and get swept up in the pile?
Into your search bar and we're taken to a brand new website. This site contains the writers and a member of the WHRP gathering evidence of
That's
weird
seashells.
trying to figure out what's going on. Going down a page, we can see that the writer is named W, which feels suspicious given the only character.
I don't know where they are. I have these. And they're sharp enough to cut. The only problem is they're like a pound. And it's hard on the wrist after a while. Says they cut and then immediately don't cut. Great, of course. Close enough. I don't care at this point. Why are you not working? Why are you pausing? Why are these things happening? I don't know what's happening with that. Live stream still going? Somewhat like that. For you guys wandered in here, you must be lost. I should actually pause the live stream and go get food. Just leave it running, just put up a sign that says get food. Alright, this happened last time. Why are you not playing? It just stops and never finishes loading. I don't know why. The live stream's going, at least for now. Alright. Definitely could be Eastlink, because they do suck balls. Like, seriously. And not in a good way. One. Back it. Yep. As much as I pay for this fucking Wi-Fi service, you shouldn't have interruptions. Hell or high water. I think this might be my last one. Nope, she's not gonna do it. Well, of course. It's only 21 degrees down here. I like this color. Very bright. I gotta get away from like the yellows for stars and stuff like that. What an annoying piece of shit that I'm dealing with. I wish I was more technologically literate. Because this is getting annoying. Six, seven. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. All right. Those are all the little tentacles. Done. I just need a bigger stick because I don't want to ruin this brush, but everything else right now is certainly over there in wet. And also not long enough, so there's that. Fuck it. I'll just listen on the phone. Wait, hang on a second. Meh. Full signal, so has to be that. Okay, let's start with something better than this. Alright, finish up here.
Which feels suspicious given the only character we know with W
Okay.
as the first letter of their name is Wally. However, we don't really get anything more to go on. I'm just gonna leave that be for now, but make no mistake, I'm watching you. Regardless, I started reading what W had to say, and as I did, it occurred to me that we've actually met this character before. In this post, W notes his frustration. Quote, "No one has come forward or provided leads. Dead ends have since piled up," which lines up with a quote from a newsletter that was posted during a minor update back in October, the Halloween update, where again, the writer is very vocal about the lack of information. Our source has yet to send the full book. I don't understand why. What is it worth to leave it out? Ripping out pages. What a waste. It takes so long to get everything off of them. Still, we're patient, aren't we? If you're reading this, please hurry. So, it would appear that W is the one writing the newsletters. But
Dion, Jennifer, tell me everything about Saran Kitchen.
So we are the first ever sensory-friendly restaurant in Canada. So we hire neurodivergent talents. We also create an inclusive space for everyone to dine in.
newsletters. But those aren't the only writings of theirs that we've seen before. Remember on the original website where we found text that said things like, "When I unwrapped the first letter, I felt it. I heard it. Open, open, open. I want it out. I'm going to get it out." Well, the same kind of writing style can be seen from W on this new hidden website. It needed me. I needed it. Everyone started to look at us. You want this as badly as I do. Up until now, we've suspected that these hidden entries on the old website were written by the question answerer, the museum curator that was hired to put on the Playfellow exhibition. They created their own hidden website that would tell us about a dream they had with Wally sat at the foot of their bed calling them on a toy telephone. He was the only one acting erratically, so at the time it made sense that he would be the one making these chaotic entries. But now, W's writing seems to be a much stronger match. Plus, it would make way more sense for a member of the WHRP to be able to alter the main website rather than a freelance museum curator. W even references the question answer and the events that we saw in the last update. Nothing from our curator who has since recovered. I don't know what happened to them to become so unwell, to create that page. Things clearly got a lot worse for our curator friend between updates. But despite knowing about the website and what it said about the telephone, W decided to grab the defective toy anyway and continue trying to fix it after the exhibition. We can see a page labeled Broken Phone that contains their findings, and we learn that no matter what W tries, the phone is still doing the same thing it was for the question answerer. It won't stop ringing. When they pick it up, it doesn't give them an answer either. Until it does. What we hear is Wally's terrible cover of the song Toyland. Only this time, there are lines from Wally talking at the beginning and the end.
Did you like it? I wish I knew, but you still won't tell me anything.
Wally is still using the phone to communicate to whoever is on the other end. But unlike last time with the question answerer, I don't think this is the side of Wally controlled by heart. Listen to what Wally says before hanging up.
Everyone's usually so...
Your faves for less. Meals now starting at $9.99. Dips for less. Drips for less. Legends for less. Meals now starting at $9.99 with medium fries and a medium fountain drink every day.
Usually so busy, so it's just me and home for a long while. I don't want to end this call.
That line, "I don't want to end this call," to me, sounds like desperation. Wally says that he's alone with Home, and he doesn't sound excited because, with no one else around, Home can take control and carry out the next part of his plan.
But I have to go get ready for home warming.
Home warming is the next part of Home's scheme to keep the neighborhood in line and indoctrinate more people into this cult. And we can see this plan in action if we head on over to the second piece of evidence from this new secret site named commercials. On this page, W tells us they managed to somehow find snippets of the actual Welcome Home TV show playing on their own TV. Previous entries on the old website talked about how no one seems to remember the show, and despite having a bunch of merch, they had no evidence the actual TV show existed. So this is a huge deal. At least it would be if W had actually managed to record any of it. Dude, you had one job, though I shouldn't give them too hard a time. They seem to recognize their mistake, and so from this point onwards, they leave the TV on, constantly watching, hoping the show would return to the screen. Until finally, he found something. Quote, I was finally rewarded in December. The channel it appeared on didn't make any sense, but I didn't care. Video evidence and audio started playing, one after the other. I've captured and compiled together whatever I could. When footage would disappear, I would have to move to another channel, where another would appear, and then disappear again. This explains why a Christmas-themed update seems to be happening in March. The newsletter that told us about the new merchandise is actually labeled December 25th, Christmas Day. But immediately after that, a new newsletter is released calling it a mistake. Quote, I hadn't realized how much time had passed. This update was planned for December, but they were so engrossed with these commercials, so determined to record evidence that they lost track of time and ended up staring at this TV for months. To the point they even claimed that things in their house have started rotting. But it was worth it, because now, after a year of the website talking about a show that didn't seem to exist, W finally had video evidence of Welcome Home, and what has been uncovered is harrowing. This video is mostly filled with commercials, advertising things like cereal, sleeping pills, and cigarettes. Yes, a balanced breakfast for any child growing up in the 70s. I'm making a joke about it, but back then, advertising this sort of thing with animated characters was pretty normal.
Hey, we ought to do something, Fred. Okay? How's about that? Hey, I got a better idea. Let's take a Winston break. That's it.
However, morally questionable adverts aren't the only thing this video includes. W laments that the original show they saw never reappeared again, except for a couple of clips from the perspective of a character we've not actually spent a lot of time with. Compared to the likes of Wally, Frank, or Barnaby, he felt like a bit of a background character, but now he seems to be taking center stage, showing us that decoder ring that got us started on this whole journey. I'm talking about Welcome Home's reliable mailman, Eddie Deer. In these clips, we see Eddie wondering why no one asked him to deliver anything, and so, to pass the time, he starts wrapping presents for his friends, but constantly begins to doubt his choices. If no one is trusting him with the mail, are his choices even good enough?
Well, no one has asked me to deliver nothing yet.
Mail? Are his choices even good enough?
Well, no one has asked me to deliver nothing yet. Let's wrap Sally's presents first. Actually, baby, Julie's. She's gonna love this chimney cozy I got her. I mean, I hope she does. Well, come to think of it, Julie hasn't called me either.
All of this eventually leads to frustration. He slams the desk and throws things around because he feels useless and alone.
How am I supposed to do my job when no one gives me something to do?
Poor guy, just give the man something to deliver, it's all he has. But these clips highlight something that has been bubbling away under the surface of Welcome Home pretty much since the beginning. Eddie is an outcast. In our last theory, we showed that the interactions between the neighbors are not as harmonious as they seem, but looking more closely, you realize that out of all of them, Eddie is the one that is most often mistreated, insulted, or taken advantage of. When Eddie is talking to Howdy about what he's doing that day, Howdy just waves him off.
Just in a rush today. I'm a little behind with my delivery run.
You don't say. You have a good one too, Ed. Boy, that fella can talk your ear off.
Barnaby chases him down the street demanding his delivery, and in a secret video from the Halloween update, Sally is talking about a famous performer. Eddie recalls that same performer, and Sally says,
Even the mailman gets it.
even the mailman gets it, as if he's somehow lesser. Clearly, the town thinks very little of Eddie, but there's something else that stood out to me. Why is there no mail? It's the holiday season. Surely there's something for Eddie to deliver. Even when the neighbors were mean to him in those previous videos, he's still going around delivering mail. Hence, Barnaby is able to chase him down the street. So, where has all the mail gone? Well, do you guys remember the guest book from the original Welcome Home website? The one that had all those reaction drawings from Wally that helped us figure out he was talking to us? And do you remember what greeted us before we entered that guest book? A colourful envelope, a pixel art version of Eddie Deer, and an image telling to visit the guest book next to another image of Eddie. Eddie is associated with the guest book, almost as if he's responsible for delivering those messages. But what you might also remember is that back in July, the guest book was closed in order to stop Wally from interacting with us. Quote, "I'm closing the guest book. I'm not playing this game anymore. The ringing is enough." You could still see the guest book, but you were no longer able to submit new entries. There were no new messages to pass on, no new letters to deliver, and that's why come home warming, Eddie has run out of stuff to deliver because the well of fan interactions has dried up, meaning he's out of a job and now he's starting to crack, and that is exactly what home wants. This video continues with the residents all heading to home for the home warming party. Eddie sits in an armchair and the narrator says,
"Eddie dear was happy. Eddie dear was happy."
But as the line is repeated, Eddie's face begins to sweat. He looks concerned. The audio begins to build until suddenly there's silence. Eddie looks at his plate, a plate that holds a single pea. That's pretty weird, but this quote-unquote meal is featured on the last page of the Welcome Home cookbook as a certified showstopper, and at the bottom of the recipe is a note. Having a get-together? Consider inviting more peas to the party. Add additional peas according to how many guests there are. Take care not to place them too close together. The peas aren't just peas, they are representations of the neighbors from home, just like the pegs were in the last update, and it's telling us to have them all separated rather than together. Up until now, we believe that home wasn't happy about the neighbors constantly fighting each other. But the more I look at this pea on a plate, the more I wonder if that's actually what home wants. Home doesn't want any of them too friendly or close. Why? Because it offers them the perfect opportunity for control. In this video, Eddie looks up to find himself alone in a blank void, with home staring right back at him. A scene that looks awfully familiar to the one we found underneath home on the old website. A blank void with Wally worshipping home as home's eye is staring at him. What follows are the sounds of Eddie struggling. His heartbeat racing, he clutches the arms of the chair, his vision begins to blur until we are snapped back into the party with Frank and Sally talking to Eddie. Exactly like what happens to Wally during the Halloween update.
Tim's loaded bowls now bring more to the table. More chicken, that is. Served in habanero, barbecue crispy chicken, and cilantro lime. Mealtime differently with Tim's loaded bowls, now with more seasoned chicken.
I think this is gonna work. It's a lot easier, but I don't think it's actually working probably.
We've known for a while that Wally is under the control of home, and so this new video is showing us that he isn't the only one. Eddie has also fallen into home's grasp. Earlier in this video, we even played a clip that shows Wally feeling isolated and alone.
Everyone's usually so busy, so it's just me and home for a long while.
That is home's tactic. Get the neighbors alone, disenfranchise them with the neighborhood, and take control. We see the idea repeated in Wally's rendition of Toyland.
Well, within it, you were ever happily there. Once you pass its borders, you
Okay, we don't need to hear the whole thing.
While Eddie was living in the neighborhood, just dwelling, he was happy. But the moment he saw the neighborhood wasn't what it was cracked up to be, passing its borders, he's gone too far. He can't go back to pretending everything is fine. Eddie feels like he's not wanted in the neighborhood. He's becoming separated from the group. So much so that he is the only one to not have any home warming decorations on his post office. And thanks to the lack of mail from the guest book, he's become isolated, lacking purpose, making him the perfect puppet. And remember, the only reason he hasn't mail is because Wally, whose first puppet, was responding to the guest book. Forced W to shut it down. Home has been playing 4D chess this whole time, and we had no idea. Home is using W to take control of the neighborhood, the WHRP, and the world. Eddie being under Home's control also explains why W hasn't received any updates since Christmas. The WHRP always said all the information found on this website was extracted from documents that had been uncovered in brightly colored envelopes. What do you do when you have a garden full of...
I didn't click on that, so go back to there. Alright, let's start with this one. Technically on, technically off. Alright, that's what we're working on. And these three, yep. All of them are fail except for this one. No. Shut up!
Which feels suspicious given the...
All right. Well, that didn't work. There's a reason I do it the other way. I knew it was too easy. If it's not a finger cramp and a threat to your limbs, then it's not right.
The only character we know with W as the first letter of their name is Wally. However, we don't really get anything more to go on, so I'm just going to leave that be for now. But make no mistake, I'm watching you. Regardless, I started reading what W had to say, and as I did, it occurred to me that we've actually met this character before. In this post, W notes his frustration. Quote, "No one has come forward or provided leads, and dead ends have since piled up," which lines up with a quote from a newsletter that was posted during a minor update back in October, the Halloween update, where again, the writer is very vocal about the lack of information. Our source has yet to send the full book. I don't understand why. What is it worth to leave it?
Shh, don't care. Is it worth it to take the whole thing out and try again, or just... I'm going to have to, because if I re-sew it, it's going to be too pinched at the bottom, and I won't be able to stand it. So... God fucking damn it.
Ripping out pages. What a waste. It takes so long to get everything off of them. Still, we're patient, aren't we? If you're reading this, please hurry. So, it was clear that W is the one writing the newsletters. But those aren't the only writings of theirs that we've seen before. Remember on the original website where we found text that said things like, "When I unwrapped the first letter, I felt it. I heard it. Open, open, open. I want it out. I'm going to get it out." Well, the same kind of writing style can be seen from W on this new hidden website. It needed me. I needed it. Everyone started to look at us. You want this as badly as I do. Up until now, we've suspected that these hidden entries on the old website were written by the question answerer, the museum curator that was hired to put on the Playfellow exhibition. They created their own hidden website that would tell us about a dream they had with Wally sat at the foot of their bed calling them on a toy telephone. He was the only one acting erratically, so at the time, it made sense that he would be the one making these chaotic entries. But now, W's writing seems to be a much stronger match. Plus, it would make way more sense for a member of the WHRP to be able to alter the main website rather than a free...
Over 40 formulas for different breeds, from puppy to adult. Royal Canin, unique needs, precise nutrition.
Mom and Dad and the twins getting ready for a scary movie. And Dad's not ready at all.
Buckle up, big guy. It does not get better from here.
M&M's. It's more fun together.
Coca-Cola is changing forever. The current administration just announced that there were talks with Coke to change their sweetener from high fructose corn syrup to cane sugar. But what does this move actually mean? Well, believe me when I tell you, not much and a whole lot all at the same time.
Corn farmers in the USA are going to lose their farms. Meanwhile, that money will be shipped out of the states to cane farmers.
And today we're talking about my favorite thing in the whole wide world, Coca-Cola. If you've been paying attention to the news
I feel
recently,
like Matt Pat should have come back for this episode.
The world is on fire. You may have caught wind of an announcement that Coca-Cola will be shifting their sweetener from high fructose corn syrup to cane sugar here in the US. Reason being, it's supposedly a healthier alternative. Now, using cane sugar isn't some weird out there idea. It's how Coca-Cola used to sweeten their drinks for years here in the US. Until 1984, when they made the switch over to high fructose corn syrup. And cane sugar is still the sweetener used in other parts of the world, like in Mexico, countries in South America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. Now, one thing to mention is at the time of writing this episode, Coke has neither confirmed nor denied the announcement. But regardless, I wanted to jump in and talk about this, because there's a lot of questions and uncertainties floating around social media about this move, and there are bigger ramifications here than meets the eye. But to get there, we have to answer three big questions. 1, what are high fructose corn syrup and cane sugar? 2, why does this move even matter? In other words, is cane sugar actually healthier than high fructose corn syrup? And once we have those two answers, we can tackle the big one. How will this move affect the US economy. And you're gonna wanna stick around till the end of the video, because there's actually a third option that Coca-Cola should switch to if they don't wanna doom us all. In this era of healthy living we're in, you might hear of high fructose corn syrup and cane sugar quite a bit. My experience is usually seeing a food or drink proudly say it's made with real cane sugar and not high fructose corn syrup. I wouldn't be surprised if that's your experience either, because high fructose corn syrup has gotten a pretty bad rap here in the US. So what exactly is it? As the name suggests, high fructose corn syrup comes from the sweet potato. I'm kidding! Jeez, tough crowd. It's actually a liquid sweetener made from corn. The process starts by milling corn. Milling is basically the fancy term for grinding something down into a powder. In the case of corn, it means taking whole kernels and breaking them apart to separate the useful stuff, like starch, protein, and oil. For high fructose corn syrup, we care about the starch. Once it's separated, it's broken down into glucose using enzymes. But here's the twist. Another enzyme is added to convert some of that glucose into fructose, the sweeter of the two sugars. The result is a syrup that's super sweet and easy to mix into drinks and processed foods. Depending on how sweet they want it, manufacturers adjust the blend, usually landing at either 42% or 55% fructose. But don't let the different percentages fool you. In either case, it's still high fructose corn syrup because regular corn syrup has zero fructose. So 42% is still way higher than zero. Cane sugar, on the other hand, comes from sugarcane, a tall, grassy plant often found in tropical areas. As a kid, I remember I'd get sugarcane from the local market and gnaw on that bad boy like it was nobody's business. It was a delicious post-soccer treat. Highly recommend. The process starts by crushing the cane to squeeze out its juice, which is naturally loaded with sucrose. That juice is then boiled down to concentrate it, and as it cools, sugar crystals form. Those crystals are separated from the leftover syrup, aka molasses, dried, and voila! You've got cane sugar. Relatively simple process, which might be a factor in why it's seen as a healthier ingredient. It's processed, but not ultra processed. Speaking of which, does getting up and out feel like more and more of a process to you? Have a hard time focusing on anything? Well, focus on this!
Does this look familiar? Well, you need Gamer Subs. Gamer Subs GG energy drinks have vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and no sugar.
To get the energy you need to marathon watch Food Theory and get a discount, visit gamersubs.gg/subsanti and use the code SUBSANTI to save 10% on Gamer Subs today. Now that you've gotten everything you need to get through the day, let's get through some of these questions, shall we? Because now we know what they are and how we get each of these sweeteners, but the difference isn't just how we get them, but what makes them sweet to begin with. I mentioned them earlier, but there are three types of naturally occurring sugars: glucose, fructose, and sucrose. Glucose is the most basic sugar your body runs on, and it's your body's go-to energy source. You can find it in things like honey, fruits, and vegetables. Fructose is the sweetest naturally occurring sugar. You can also find it in honey and fruits, and it does provide energy for your body, but in a more roundabout way. Where pretty much every cell in your body can use glucose directly, fructose needs to make a stop in your liver first. These two sugars are what are called monosaccharides, the basic building blocks of carbohydrates. The third type of sugar, sucrose, is what we call table sugar. Sucrose is what's known as a disaccharide. It's glucose and fructose joined together into a completely different molecule that your body has to break down in a completely different way. So what does this mean when it comes to cane sugar and high fructose corn syrup? Cane sugar is sucrose when you eat it. Your body has to break down that bigger molecule, the disaccharide, into the more basic components. This digestion starts in the mouth, but mainly happens in the small intestine with the enzyme called sucrase. It lines your small intestine and breaks down the sucrose into glucose and fructose for your body to absorb. High fructose corn syrup, despite the name, has both glucose and fructose, like cane sugar does, except they're not chemically bonded together in high fructose corn syrup. It's more of a situationship than a relationship, and in this case, they're considered free. The health concerns come from some studies that suggest that the free fructose might be absorbed faster, hitting your liver quicker and making it work harder. See, when fructose hits the liver, it gets metabolized into glucose for your cells to use immediately, or into glycogen for short-term energy reserves. But when there's too much, your liver converts the excess into fat. The fat gets stored in the liver or sent to your bloodstream, where in both cases, it can build up and lead to some serious problems. And when it comes to these sorts of things, when it rains, it sucrose, because your body has a natural way to stop you from consuming too much sugar, and that's insulin. Insulin is a hormone your body makes to help manage your glucose levels in your blood. It's also part of a system in your body that helps your brain know when you're full. Fructose, though, completely bypasses insulin. So when you eat or drink something high in fructose, your body doesn't get that insulin signal, and you don't feel as
See how that
full.
looks,
So
I
it's
guess?
easy to take
Because
in
it doesn't
way
look
more
good from
than your
this
body
side.
needs, leading to that fat development and other health concerns. Now, information, you might be thinking, well, yeah, high fructose corn syrup is definitely less healthy then. But not really. Remember, sucrose is still half glucose, half
Start with the corner.
fructose.
Start with
Nutritionally
this guy.
speaking,
That's
they're
good.
identical, especially as
Good.
far as your body's concerned. Part of the conversation here stems from a misconception. Because in nature, sucrose usually is found in things that happen to fill you up more. One, because you're actually eating something, not drinking it. And two, because in things like fruits, it's usually accompanied by water, fiber, and other nutrients that fill you up more and stop you from over-consuming. But all of that flies out the window when it comes to Coke. When you're drinking the sugar, your body doesn't get more full from cane sugar or high fructose corn syrup. And the sugar content is the exact same. Take a look at Mexican Coke. 150 calories, 39 grams of sugar. American Coke has 140 calories, same 39 grams of sugar. Those last 10 calories seem to be in the sodium levels, which comes down to carbonation. In either case, you're drinking a ton of sugar, a ton of fructose, and your liver
This
will
is Winnie the
dislike
Pooh.
you
He will
all
be
the
our
same.
sacrifice
The only
tonight.
real difference actually comes down to a subjective one, taste. Now, me personally, I am a much bigger fan of Mexican Coke with cane sugar than American Coke with high fructose corn syrup. And I'm willing to blindly stand behind that statement with a blind taste test. Editors, transition. So this is how this little blind taste test is gonna go down. To see if I can actually pick out the different taste of the cane sugar to the high fructose corn syrup, we're gonna be testing 5 different cola products.
I just don't know what I'm gonna do with all these like empty squishmallows.
And as a little
Maybe I'll make a blanket or something.
my goal is to not pick the Pepsi and to see if I can pick out the cane sugar Coca-Cola from the other high fructose corn syrup by taste alone. So let's get started. All right, so I have been blindfolded with this very nice weighted eye blanket. I also have no idea what's going on here. The lovely Claudia has been helping me get this all together so that this is obviously a blind taste test. Claudia, they're right in front of me?
They're right in front of you. So you're gonna start on your left.
That's Diet Coke. I don't like Diet Coke because it's so very different and there's like a weird sweet aftertaste to it. Next one. Ooh. Oh, that just tastes good. I think that just tastes like regular Coke. It might taste like Coke Zero. Yeah, it's just, there's a sweetness there that's throwing me off because it tastes really, really good. And it makes me think it's the Mexican Coke. That's Mexican Coke. All right, that's Pepsi. That is 1000% Pepsi. I'll almost lock it in. No, that's Pepsi.
No, that's the last one.
This one tastes good and it tastes real. I think I can taste the cane sugar in this one.
You had previously said Mexican Coke for number 2.
If you're going to commit to a manicure, commit to a Skittles manicure.
Commit to the rainbow. Taste the rainbow.
Coke for number 2.
No. Cup number 2 is regular Coke. It's much sweeter. Number 1 is Zero. Number 2 is regular. Number 3 is Diet. Number 4 is Pepsi. Number 5 is Mexican. Locked in.
So number 1 was actually the OG American Coke.
Oh, what?
Number 2 was Coke Zero.
Okay.
Number 3 you got correct.
Diet Coke.
Diet Coke. 4 you got correct.
It's a little wonky
Pepsi.
at the top.
And number
That's
five.
okay.
5 you got correct, which is Mexican.
Okay, Mexican Coke with cane sugar. I can absolutely tell. Even though, again, nutritionally speaking, there's no real big difference to your body between these two. I personally could detect a very big difference between the two. As soon as I tasted this, I knew it was Mexican Coke, especially in comparison to the others. Now, obviously, we can talk about the difference between Diet, Zero, and regular and how there's calories and no calories. But as far as cane sugar and high fructose corn syrup, there really is no big difference other than that preference. I'm telling you, same sugar content, different taste. And honestly, if that were the sole reason, I'd be all for it. But saying it's healthier is honestly disingenuous. Neither is technically worse than the other, especially in liquid form. But like I said at the top of the episode, there's serious economic ramifications to this. See, there's a reason why American Coke uses high fructose corn syrup instead of cane sugar. The US agriculture industry grows more corn than any other crop. Corn has always been the bumper crop of America's heartland, but high fructose corn syrup and the corn as main animal feed booms were both likely supercharged in the the 1970s thanks to government subsidies for farmers. Essentially, the government pays farmers to grow it, whether we need it or not, which makes corn dirt cheap. And when you got cheap corn, you get cheap corn syrup. And you know what companies love to do? Not spend money. So naturally, Coke started using high fructose corn syrup to keep things nice and cheap for them. So if things go ahead with this change, the production cost is going to become more costly. The most recent industry data shows that high fructose corn syrup costs about 20 to 30 cents per pound, while cane sugar usually costs around 40 to 50 cents per pound. Doesn't sound like much, but remember, we have to multiply that by a factor of thousands or even millions because of how much Coke is made, which means it's going to cost more to make, and therefore is going to sell at a higher price to cover these costs. That's just how business works. But it's not just the cost of sodas we need to be worrying about. Coke is up there as one of the largest buyers of high fructose corn syrup, using it for most of their beverages. If they stop using it though, the demand will plummet, and by extension, US corn will too. This creates a chain reaction. It'll impact farmers' incomes, particularly in states where corn production is big, like Iowa. But also, all the other jobs related to converting corn into high fructose corn syrup could be affected by this drop in demand. People in the food manufacturing industry could lose their jobs. This decision could cost the jobs of thousands of people and communities within the Corn Belt, all for a health benefit that doesn't really exist. That said, places like Florida, Louisiana, or Texas, where the climate makes it possible to grow sugarcane, could see a huge economic benefit because they would become the sole supplier for these industries. They are seeing dollar bills, y'all. Unfortunately, this still has its setbacks, as if this dog pile isn't bad enough, because even at the moment, the cane sugar production within the U.S. only covers a fraction of the U.S. sweetener needs, and still relies on importing it from elsewhere. There's no way those 3 states would be able to ramp up production nearly enough to cover it all. In 2019/2020, there was an all-time high amount imported at 3.38 million metric tons of sugar. That is a sugar ton. So with Coca-Cola wanting to use cane sugar, we're gonna have to import even more. Here's the thing though, there is a secret third option, another sweet that could be a better alternative: sugar beets. The US is already one of the top 5 producers of sugar beets in the world. Sugar beets can be made and refined into beet sugar and is 99.9% sucrose, chemically identical to cane sugar. The reason this is a better alternative is that sugar beets grow best in a temperate climate, one that doesn't get too hot or too cold, just like the Corn Belt in the US. So sugar beets could replace where the corn is currently growing. This is actually what a lot of other countries do with their sugar supplies, like the UK or countries in Europe like the Netherlands. And guess what? In those countries, Coca-Cola uses beet sugar as their sweetener, so it's not completely unheard of. With a similar climate, the US can pivot, and those people who may lose jobs from a lack of demand for corn could easily shift to growing sugar beets. It's not a perfect solution since the entire Corn Belt isn't fully suited to growing sugar beets, but if corn really is out of the conversation, there could be a world where US sugarcane production can increase to help complement the sugar beet production and fill the gap. Problem is, this is just a theory to minimize the economic gut punch that this change could bring about. But it wouldn't be cheap. Sure, the agricultural impact would be smaller, and the economy wouldn't suffer as much from such a pointless change. But beet sugar wouldn't be any healthier. There's no such thing as healthy when you're drinking 39 grams of sugar in a single can. The problem isn't the sweetener, it's the amount, it's the excess. That is a conversation we should be having. Sugar consumption is down across the country, but on average, young people are still having 1 can of soda a day. It doesn't matter if it's high fructose corn syrup or cane sugar or beet sugar, the impact it has on your health is the same either way. And who knows, if it all fails, maybe they'll just go back to the original recipe. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Buen provecho. And hey, want to see more? Make sure to click the link on the screen.
I'm
now.
using a local brand
I'll see you next week.
of soda right now. I actually don't know how they sweeten it.
So we are the first ever sensory-friendly restaurant in Canada. So we hire neurodivergent talents. We also create an inclusive space for everyone to dine in.
Just when I thought I was done covering stupid Gen Z TikTok trends, they pull me back in. This time, the liquid isn't a pink sauce, it's not even NyQuil. It's Borg. Not that Borg, this Borg. I know, it looks a lot less cool, right? That's saying a lot because, you know, we're talking about Star Trek. Cool and Star Trek, never really synonymous with each other.
Don't give me a promise.
Hello,
of 25%
Internet!
chance
Welcome
of rain
to
tomorrow.
Food Theory, where the only thing we're imbibing in excess is knowledge. So let's just talk about the latest Gen Z craze sweeping the campuses of U.S. universities. Excuse me, what was that? Oh, okay, yeah. The latest Gen Z craze that's been sweeping the campuses of U.S. universities for the last several years. Yeah, once again, the mainstream media is a little bit late on the uptake for
Fucking
this.
whore.
What you see before you on screen is a liquor
Fine.
store in a jug, cheekily named the Borg. This thing has been making headlines lately, not just because of its incredibly dangerous premise, but also because of its looks, which are somewhere between overly hydrated Jim Bro and the Beverly Hillbillies. If you've never seen one of these things, the Borg, or Blackout Rage Gallon, is basically everything that you see here. Gallon jug, unidentifiable liquid inside, usually a bright color that's reminiscent of a culty Kool-Aid, and a gaggle of college tailgaters sloshing them around at hip height, slinging back a few gulps, and then recapping. It is hard to describe just how unappealing these things look from the outside, but the Blackout Rage Gallon seems to be the apparent edgelord of the drinking game world, and it's recently made the rounds on TikTok with lots of confused and angry commentary. Gen Z's rendition of Freshman Fun here has garnered over 85 million views across the platform, and honestly, it's not hard to understand why once you learn that the recipe for one of these things involves a practically lethal dose of alcohol thrown into a random unlabeled jug. Safety, thy name is not Borg. So what exactly is in this thing? While each individual Borg may be lovingly handcrafted to meet the drinker's needs, your typical Borg contains roughly a half gallon or 1.9 liters of water. So off the bat, you better be hoping that you're planning a party near the restroom. Even the most elastic bladder is going to be needing it after a couple swigs of this puppy. And if you're an absolute mad lad when it comes to hydration, some people are even throwing in electrolyte packets like Liquid IV, likely there to try and offset what comes next in the recipe, a whopping fifth of alcohol, 750 milliliters. For reference, that is an entire bottle of Sky vodka. That is 17 servings of alcohol right in your actual fingertips. Next, you're going to want to make sure you'll taste absolutely none of that alcohol by drowning it in flavor enhancers. The standard choices seem to be Mio Black Cherry or Kool-Aid Tropical Punch, because I love my alcohol to remind me of elementary school snack time. And there it is. Boom. Done. Your Borg is complete. It all adds up to a gallon of fun and a whole lot of hospital visits. In case you couldn't tell, I'm approaching this quote-unquote beverage with some sober skepticism, since at the outset this seems to be nothing if not a completely terrible idea. But what if it's not? What if there's an appeal here that we're overlooking? I mean, taking a glance at this thing, the redeeming qualities would have to be really deeply buried. But what if instead of trashing on something new, we try to find some of its merit instead? Come on, hold your nose. Let's take a swig of this Borg-tastic trend so at the end of the episode you can honestly review to tell me in the comments whether you think this idea is sickeningly smart or still just sickening. Down the hatch, my fellow theorists. Now, the Borg is purely a product of college day drinking culture. The thing is basically a bucket of cheap alcohol. It's not about trying to craft the most elegant tiki drink for your tri-delt luau. This is about getting trashed for pennies on the dollar. But just how bad is the Borg? Like I mentioned before, the traditional Borg recipe contains 17 servings of alcohol. Probably don't need to count on your fingers to guess that that one is probably a bit more than you should be having. The definition of binge drinking is 4 drinks or more for a female and 5 drinks or more for a male within a 2-hour period. Something that is uncomfortably easy to achieve for the Borg-toting masses out there. But that's just if we stop at mere binge drinking. What the Borg actually qualifies for is the other category that you don't usually hear about, high-intensity drinking. True to its name, this kind of drinking, as defined by the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, is an alcohol intake twice or more the gender-specific threshold for binge drinking. So about 8 drinks for a female and 10 for a male, which again puts us just over the 50% mark for a single Borg. Now, I hear ya. A gallon of anything is a lot, alcohol or otherwise. That's where the flavorings come in, which introduces a whole other set of problems into this recipe. You see, the traditional version of the Borg involves a full bottle of Mio Black Cherry flavoring, but you're not just dropping in a bunch of artificial colors and sweeteners there. What you're also adding in there is caffeine, and a lot of it. The Mio Black Cherry contains an eye-watering 1,080 milligrams of caffeine. I kind of feel like I've had it out for caffeine in recent episodes, especially for a guy who drinks a fair share of caffeine myself, but even by my standards, that is an over-the-top amount of caffeine, and it is well into the realm of dangerous. As we discussed in the Panera lemonade episode, the FDA's recommended maximum amount of caffeine is 400 milligrams per day. That is the absolute upper limit. Beyond that, you're running into serious risk of seizures, heart problems, and all kinds of other side effects. But here's the Borg taking that amount of caffeine and doubling it. So high-intensity drinking mixed with caffeine overdose sounds like a pretty bad combination, right? Well, the sum of its parts are actually much worse than you might initially think. In 2005, a group of recent Ohio State graduates got together to create Fusion Products, a company designed to create and distribute a prototype of their new drink, Energy Beer. Basically, while they were in college, they'd started mixing energy drinks with various alcoholic beverages, and they got a lot of positive feedback. Seeing that they could make money off of it, they created the drink now known as Four Loko, a flavored beer that was infused with caffeine. By 2008, this drink was ready for the mainstream US market, and within a year, it had exploded in popularity and was going international. And then...
Each can contains the equivalent of 6 beers and 2 cups of coffee, leading some to call Four Loko blackout in a can or liquid cocaine.
A man in New Jersey is suing the makers of an alcohol and caffeine drink called Four Loko because he claims it caused permanent heart damage.
Four Loko played a role in their son's death.
So far, 4 kids in White Plains have been hospitalized with alcohol poisoning.
Pitcher's family is suing the makers of Four Loko following his death. The 15-year-old drank 2 cans of Four Loko and was legally intoxicated when he walked into the path of an oncoming car.
In 2010, the Food and Drug Administration and Federal Trade Commission sent warning letters to all producers of caffeinated alcoholic beverages. Why?
Excel, do what feels fresh. Excel refreshers, do what feels fresh.
Why? Well, they were seeing increased reports of teens getting hospitalized with blood alcohol contents equal to twice the legal limit. We're all familiar with caffeine in drinks, right? And we've talked on this channel before about the fact that caffeine is a substance that FDA considers to be gross, or generally...
Alright, 1 giant squid. I don't know if I can show how high this is. How far away does that go? Over. Okay. I'm not pretty, but you're not here for me. So yeah. 8-foot ceilings. And he's comfortably over 8 foot. So I'm going on stairs. On the stairs. Thank you. God. Do. Alright. I'm tired. I don't want to do anything else. And I'm not. Alright. Well, I got something today, so I'm going to call that a win. Thank you for stopping by, and you guys enjoy the rest of your night.